Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Context. So years ago, while I was in high school, I lived in a particularly shady part of Los Angeles. When it came to transportation, because my family was poor, I memorized every bus line that could get me home regardless of the hour of the night, which meant I had to trek through some questionable areas. But the most I had on me was insignificant in value. I kept my laptop at my friend's house because of my sisters, and had a broken DS that was also kept at my friend's house. My friends always told me to appear like I have nothing, and hide headphones under my shirt so you couldn't see them well. One night I was traveling to the train station to go to a friend's house to crash. I was leaving my mother's house around 10:30 at night. Now, typically when one would see me, you would see as shabbily dressed. I had an oversized hoodie and cargo pants with some New Balances. I legit only owned like 2 pairs of pants, 1 pair of shoes, and 1 shirt. The hoodie helped. Overweight nerd. The local gang members in the area knew me since the day I brought a large painting from a garage sale for my mom for Mother's Day and had to carry that witch for a mile from the bus stop, causing them to stop me and asking what the hell a kid was doing at 3 a.m. on a school night walking home. Long conversation short, they told me to stay in school and they would make sure I would be safe as long as I stayed a square. Now, with that in mind, the walk to the train station was pretty straightforward, and I never got harassed ever. Until I met 2 idiots. The situation played out like this. I was checking to see if, by some chance, the bus that was scheduled to come at 10:25 was late by looking down the street as I walked along the route it took. Since it would cut 30 minutes out of the walk, I wasn't paying attention to the people around me. But my older sister just bought the newest generation of the iPod Touch. So she gave me her old one. Part of the reason I was going to my friend's house was to swap out all the music to stuff I listened to. But it was something to listen to on the walk, so eventually a few blocks from my house, I get stopped by 2 guys dressed in dark clothes, asking me for the time. They asked me if I was from the area, and I told them I moved out here not too long ago. I went to school a bit away. Nodding to what I was saying, they asked what I was listening to, and I told them it was some Sarah Bareilles. From there, the conversation went something like this. Dumb one says, "That's some soft crap. You aren't a softie, are you?" No, but she has some good music." "No, you shouldn't be listening to that crap. How are you listening to that anyways? On your phone?" "No, I don't have a phone. My family is poor. I can't really afford one. My friend gave me an MP3. By then I noticed Tom 2 was getting a bit close, so I moved a little bit away, noticing that they both came closer. "What type of MP3 player?" "It's an old iPod." "That's not something someone poor would have. What else do you have? What's in your backpack?" Nothing much, just a change of clothes and toothbrush." At this point, they grabbed me and forced my backpack from me, and they took my iPod. I struggled at first, but one of them kept punching me, so I curled up in a ball to avoid getting hurt too much. After one of them kicked me, Tom 2 forced me to my feet while Tom 1 looked through my bag, only to find an empty wallet with my school ID and the clothes and toothbrush like I said. Throwing my stuff on the ground, they looked around before pocketing the iPod. "Is this all you got?" "Yeah." "Stupid jerk. Giving us all this crap just because you wanted to live it up with some crap you don't deserve." Punching me for one good time, the 2 were about to leave before an idea popped up in my head. My friend, former gang member, always told me not to take crap sitting down. Wait, I have video games. A GameCube and a PS2 and a laptop. "What?" "Just give me back the iPod and I will trade you." That was a gift from someone important. I just want the iPod back. Seeing how they both looked at me like I was stupid, I began crying. It wasn't hard, I was in pain, and even to this day I don't like being in pain. And I was begging them. "I live right there," points to the big apartment building. "Just come in like 10 minutes so I can sneak it out in my backpack." There is a poorly lit alleyway and everything. Just give me back my iPod, please." At this point, they felt like I was an idiot. So they agreed and told me they would come after showing them the alley. Taking this time, I went into my mom's apartment and called 911 on the flip phone I had in my shoes. Dispatch answers, "911, what's your emergency?" Can you send an officer to X Street in place X? What's the reason?" Ma'am, I just got robbed in. I somehow convinced the robbers to come to my house to trade back the items they stole." Sir, I'm going to be honest. This line is for emergencies, and prank call-in ties up the line that can lead to someone losing their… Ma'am, I'm absolutely serious. I'm 16 and was assaulted by 2 grown men. Please, I'm being absolutely serious here. If I'm lying, I'll pay you whatever fine. It's not like you can't figure out who this is. The phone is in my mom's name, and I gave you my information and street number. She says, "There is already a patrol car in your area. I will send them right away." Luckily, the dispatcher believed me, and 2 to 3 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up and 2 officers approached me. Explaining the situation 2 to 3 times, the officers look at me like I'm stupid. Cop 1 says, "Look kid, there is no plausible reason you should be wasting our time." Cop 2 says, "No one in their right mind will come to their victim's house after committing a crime." But just as he was saying that, dumb 1 interrupts. "Kid, where are you? You want your iPod back or what?" Hearing dumb 1, the cops became serious and beckoned me to call out to them, putting a hand to their guns. "I have the stuff here. Just promise me you will give me back the iPod." "Yeah, whatever kid. Just hurry up, we don't have all night." Cop 1 then appears to them and says, "Put your hands in the air and stay where you are." Guns drawn, and the cops round the corner and shine a flashlight on the 2 idiots who froze as the cops quickly apprehended them and cuffed them. Turns out, the 2 had knives on them and some other stuff from someone they robbed earlier. Pressing charges, the 2 got arrested, and I didn't get my iPod back until like the next day or 2, cause they took it in for evidence. So this happened about over a month back, and honestly this revenge is completely warranted. So a bit of backstory. Back in the fall, my parents adopted a new kitten. At 4 months old, our kitten, who I will call Kitten, don't laugh, he deserves respect, is the cutest little thing. Then he grew. Turns out, he's a Maine Coon, as in one of the largest domestic cat breeds on the planet. Currently, he's a year old and is already the size of a small/medium-sized dog, and he's only going to be fully grown when he's 3 years old. In other words, a big cat. But he's very sweet, extremely fluffy, and all around adorable with his little kitten face. And he's got the sweetest loving personality, as well as kitten energy and the fact that we trained him to go on walks on a leash. Yup, we walk Kitten like a dog. But he loves it, and the neighborhood kids adore it. Though, because of the virus, we cannot let them pet him. But maybe in the future they can. Anyways, because he's leash trained, we can put him in the backyard on a lead so he can run around and not drive our other cat insane, which he takes pride in. But it's what happened when he was in the backyard that prompted the revenge. I was in the kitchen, home alone, when I heard barking and screeches. And I looked out the window in time to see that the neighbor's Doberman had gotten into the backyard and was chasing Kitten around the yard. I flew into action, grabbing a frying pan I had been about to use and raced out to scare the dog off. What happened in a few seconds it took to get out was that the dog managed to pike Kitten's fluffy tail. Thankfully, the Doberman let go when my cat turned and slashed his nose, and I put myself between them, shouting and yelling and waving the pan around. I felt relieved that the dog was dissuaded, then left. When I went back to the neighbor's yard by walking through the gate it had pushed open because I didn't latch it. Never made that mistake again. And I was horrified to see that our neighbor had just watched. I shouted at her, asking why she didn't stop her dog, and she just smirked and said something along the lines of, "It's not my problem you didn't lock the gate." I snapped back at her that she hadn't locked hers, but she was already walking inside, leaving her dog out. Furious, I brought Kitten inside and checked his poor tail over. Thankfully, the little guy's tail was fine, the thick fluff having protected his skin, but I was still mad. If I hadn't noticed, the cat could have been killed. Of course, there was a whole virus issue. As it was proven that pets can be carriers, I had to wash the slobber off his tail. And to be safe, since my family has a history of asthma, quarantine the poor kitten in the kitchen. I had to pull out a bin to make an emergency litter box and put his food dish and bowl of water in there. I even had to tie his leash so he couldn't leave the space. Kitten was so upset to suddenly be confined, and I saw that as I called my mom to tell her what had happened so she would not be confused when she and my sister came home. Then, as I had to call my dad because Kitten was his cat and explain, I decided to sleep downstairs to keep Kitten company and keep our other cats away from him just in case. Dad was livid when I explained over the phone, but he was a trucker and couldn't come home for a while, so there was nothing he could do. After Mom and Sis got home, and Mom tried to talk to the neighbor to no avail, we had to go to bed, and I camped downstairs to keep the poor guy company as we quarantined him. Now, before you say I'm crazy for sleeping downstairs with a cat, let me explain. Cats, unlike so many think, have personalities and emotions, and are very in tune to a person's feeling, and also intelligent. I've watched both our cats comfort my sister when she got depressed from the lockdown, and they are very clear about what they want. They will both sit at the back door when they want out, sit at their food dishes when they want food, and even buy closed door knobs when they want into a closed room. Anyways, I spent the night downstairs, and in the morning we took Kitten to the vet. Our vet thankfully is a client of my mom, who's an accountant, so she let us come in early after Mom explained on the way. Kitten had to stay for a few nights to get tested, and I isolated myself in case I became a carrier. He even had a rabies check and came back clean. Then we got a call from the vets about a week later, and pure relief filled us as the test came back negative. We picked him up and brought him home, and Kitten let us snuggle the daylights out of his fluffy self. We even got little lick kisses. But of course, there was still that neighbor. I wanted to get some revenge, but at that time I didn't know how. So we only let the cats out when either the lady wasn't home or when one of us could be out with the cats. And the gate was always kept closed, though sometimes we would wake up to find it open. And since we rented, we weren't allowed to put a lock on it. Then when I thought that neighbor would get away with it, a miracle happened. It was about 2 weeks after the incident with the Doberman, and I was out riding my bike. I had stopped under a tree in the downtown, and it had started to rain a little. So, as I was putting my rain jacket on, I saw a surprise. Against a nearby wall was a payphone. A payphone. I was in shock, and then saw my chance. I'm an avid watcher of Animal Cops on the Animal Planet channel, and I realized that by that lady not keeping a tighter leash on her dog, she was in the wrong with the law. Now, I know Animal Cops is in the States, and I don't live there, so the laws could be different, but still, I saw my chance. I didn't want this to come back to me in case this went horribly wrong, as I had just gotten accepted into a good job to help pay for my tuition. So, the payphone was a godsend. I locked my bike some distance from the home, hid my phone in one of the saddlebags, GPS, duh, and with my hood pulled up nonchalantly, walked over with some spare change. As for the virus thing, the downtown was pretty empty, especially from the rain, and I had a mask and gloves on. The gloves were disposable for work, so I was covered, and the mask could have the bonus of masking my voice. Yes, I see the pun, and yes, I'm a little paranoid. Sue me for being cautious. Anyways, I called the cops and explained about a neighbor down the street who had a Doberman that she let loose often and got into her neighbor's yard. Ours. And they own cats. I also added that I witnessed a dog open the gate a few weeks back and chases one of the cats who was supervised on a lead, and he bit the cat. I then went on to say that the lady let the dogs, yeah, she got more than one, bark all night, and never keeps him on a leash, which it turns out, on public land that's not a dog bark, the dogs have to be on a leash for public safety. I tell them that I'm prepared to remain anonymous, which they understand, then give the address, hang up, dispose of my gloves, and park around for a bit longer before taking a hidden shortcut home. I get back in time to see a patrol car in front of the neighbor's house. An animal control pulling the Doberman out of my backyard as a lady is screaming at the cops. I approached an officer staying 6 feet away and asked what was going on, feigning innocent confusion. The officer asks who I am, shows my university ID, and I tell him that I live in the house of the yard that they are pulling the dog out of. He questions me and I tell him about the incident. He asks if I'd like to press charges against the woman for reckless endangerment and animal cruelty. Since I'm a legal adult, I can see the lady glaring at me from her yard, and I smirk and say, with extreme pleasure. That ended with a woman being tackled and arrested as she attempted to assault me and ended up punching a cop. A very bad move. The officer I was talking to asks if I would like to press potential assault charges, and as I watch her get shoved into a cruiser and the dog be dragged into a crate and be put into an animal control van, I happily said yes. Boy, were my parents and sister surprised when they came back home, as they were essential workers. So last week, the event ended with a lady getting severe fines, probation for a few years, and the kicker, 6 months in jail. Her dogs were also confiscated for neglect and were put up for adoption after training. I saw them on the shelter's website, and I'm actually happy that they got adopted because it is not their fault that their owner was a witch. And because of the hefty fine, she could no longer live next door, as she rented like we did and lost her things. And all this was because the anonymous tip acted as a witness. Wow, I got her jailed and fined, which resulted in her being fined badly enough that she lost her rented house and also her right to her dogs. And it was completely legal. No one will have to deal with her in this neighborhood again. Long story short, Miss was my precious cat, and I will call the cops on you and your dogs anonymously and make you lose your house, pets, and send you to jail with a hefty fine. Edit. Clarification for those who complained about a few things. 1. Rabies tests can be a week to 2 weeks where I live, and that involves keeping the animal quarantined to see if symptoms develop. As I had written, it took a week to get the call back, during which I was worried out of my mind. Kitten is my dad's cat, and the only reason he's not depressed. 2. I had seen a news report in Canada about a dog getting the virus, so excuse me if I was being cautious. Given that my family has a history of asthma, I wasn't one who, again, as I wrote, likes to take chances. I am cautious by nature. Thank you very much. 3. I'm a writer by trade. I write stories for fun and take great care in keeping things organized and correct. I'm also in university, where I have to write reports, essays, and a host of other things that need precise writing. So it's habitual at this point. If you don't understand still, that means that it's become a habit. To go over what I write, be it email, text, or a post, to make sure everything is correct and makes sense. And 4. What kind of same person enjoys writing about one of their beloved pets being attacked? I only put this out there as a warning that your neighbors can be jerks and that you always need to make sure your pets are in a safe place, and that justice always wins in the end. I did not enjoy having to be worried sick about kissing, then worry about that lady letting her dog, or both dogs, loose on my cats again. I keep that gate latched even now, which is a bit of a pain coming home from work or shopping now. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.